Where do you rank Jimmy Butler? I'm talking about Jimmy Buckets. Listen, we just saw Butler come off an amazing NBA Finals run. This dude right here put up historical performances, and when you start really trying to think about, well, where does Jimmy Butler rank? Like, among the greatest players in the game today. Like, if you really think about it, he's one of those tough guys that's out there to rank. Like, he's not one of the, the top 2 or 3 players in the game, in my opinion. He's not up there on that tier 1 level, but he's also not one of these young up-and-coming guys like a Jason Tatum or Devin Booker or any of those younger guys. So he's kind of in that middle group that kind of makes it a little harder to define Jimmy Butler in his career because he's been in the league for many years. He's had many stops. I mean, we've seen it with Chicago Bulls, we've seen it with the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Philadelphia 76ers last year, and now the Miami Heat this year. So after all of these different stops, after all of these different appearances and listen, all-star appearances, all NBA appearances, all defensive appearances, where does Butler today, after that 2020 NBA Finals run, those unconventional and the typical stints of the normal home court, traveling and, back-to-backs, different things like that, it wasn't a traditional season that we saw, but nonetheless, it's not an astral season by any stretch of the imagination. It took a lot of mental fortitude and just a lot of physical toughness to make it through that NBA bubble. And Butler made it. I mean, he didn't win the championship, but he made it to the last game. So I gotta give Jimmy Butler a lot of credit. And I started really thinking like, well, okay, where should I rank him? Like, he's an all-star? Is he a superstar? Where did we put him? So in this trend, I'm going to be breaking down not only how I classify Jimmy Butler and just kind of, how amazing this run was that he went on today that has me kind of pondering this question, but also where I place him as far as the top players in the game today, whether that's top 30, top 20, top 10. We're going to get into it today. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Welcome back to Journey of a Ballaholic, the best talk show for basketball addicts. I'm your host, General Hannibal X. Now, if you're new on this channel here, you're going to be getting my passionate and in-depth analysis on the hottest NBA and college basketball topics. Listen, I'm a ballaholic, absolutely addicted to basketball. And just like everybody, I've got my own opinion. But if you like opinions that are backed by facts, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, but also be sure that you go down and hit that join now button, as I've got a new members only section where we're doing live Q&A sessions. I also got a new series that's called Cooking with the General, where I'm prepping, I'm cooking, I'm talking all things basketball. We got the NBA draft coming up, free agency, you name it. So go down below, hit that join now button, and go ahead and sign up. So I'm on social media and I'm having conversations with different basketball minds, and the question came up of, where do you rank Jimmy Butler? Like, is Jimmy Butler top 10 player? Is he top 20? Like, where do you put Jimmy Butler? And as I started thinking about it, I have my own opinion, but one of the things that I heard as far as somebody who wasn't as high on Jimmy Butler as I was that he was inconsistent. And I think one of the narratives around that was that there were times in these playoffs where Jimmy Butler wasn't the leading scorer on that team. He wasn't the leading rebounder, the leading assist man. And so some people will look at that and say, well, he didn't do these things. Dragic was a leading scorer, or Bam was a leading rebounder or leading assist man, so he can't be a superstar. He can't be an elite player. And I think about that and I say, well, let's really take a step back for a second. Let's really think about Jimmy Butler and his career. Look at what he did when he was with the Chicago Bulls, a young pup coming up, and being trained by a lot of veterans in the game to the point where he helped Chicago have some of their better years that they've seen in recent times, since Jordan was there, right? Over the years, we've seen him kind of be a part of those teams, even with Minnesota, where they weren't as good as people would have probably thought they were going to be, but he helped elevate them and tried to help elevate them to being better than what they were. Look at the Philadelphia 76ers. We haven't seen them be as good as they were last year if it wasn't for Jimmy Butler. And look at them this year. I think they would have been in the NBA Finals this year had they had Jimmy Butler. He leaves. They kind of fall apart. New coach, coach is gone, and now he comes to Miami and a team that was in the lottery just last year. Let's not forget that. This Miami Heat team, as good as they are, they went in the lottery last year. And you add Jimmy Butler to that, now all of a sudden you're in the NBA Finals. You're 2 wins away from winning a championship. Like, let's really stop and think about that for a second. Jimmy Butler, and I hope this goes without question, Jimmy Butler was the best player on that Miami Heat team. Once again, I understand that Dragic may have led them in scoring in the playoffs. I understand that Bam was leading and doing his thing. But let's be very clear. The heart and soul of that team, the leader of that team, the person who's that team really had the identity of, It was Jimmy Butler. He's a workman. And those guys kind of followed that lead. And he showed that on the bigger stages, he could raise his game to a level that most players just can't get to. Like during the season, Butler was no slouch. Like, let's be very clear. Butler was no slouch. All NBA player, right? And Jimmy Butler was able to give you, what was it, like 20 points a game, 6.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.8 steals. I mean, listen, he was 45% from the field and only 24% from three. And I say only because as the playoffs came, he raised that shooting up, man. Jimmy Butler was hitting shots that you just really didn't expect Butler to do, and that's what great players do. They raise their level of game when the playoffs come, when the lights get brightest and the intensity picks up. Big time players step up, and Jimmy Butler did that. So when you start thinking about where do I rank him, once again, in my opinion, he's not a tier 1 guy. Like, to me, and I'm gonna do another video where I'm really ranking players and listing all the players and how I rank, maybe the top 10 or the top 25 players position by position, right? That's not this video. This video is more specifically about Jimmy Butler and where he stands, but I don't put him in that tier 1. Like the guys like LeBron James and the Kevin Durant and the Kawhi Leonard, like Jimmy Butler's not on that level, right? The Anthony Davis, he's not on that level. But he's not, once again, he's not on that level with those young guys. The guys that are just coming up. The Brandon Ingrams, the Jason Tatums, the Devin Bookers of the world, the Trey Young. He's not on their level. I think he's past that. So he's somewhere in between those tiers. So where does he fall? For me, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Jimmy Butler has made a case of this NBA Finals run. I think Butler has made a legitimate case to where you could put him as not just being an all-star, but he's now graduated to a superstar level. Now, understand the difference between those two. To me, an all-star, like, for instance, Brandon Ingram is an all-star. He made an all-star team, right? Jason Tatum's an all-star. I think Jason Tatum is a borderline superstar. So there are levels to this. But a guy like Jamal Murray, for instance, Jamal Murray's never made an all-star team. Is he a superstar yet? I can't call him a superstar if you've never made an all-star team, because you got to do it in the regular season, and then you got to be able to raise your game in the playoffs, right? Jimmy Butler has made all-star appearances. So there's no question about can he do it in the regular season? Can he be the best player on the team that goes to the playoffs, right? There's no question about that. There should be no question about that. Now the question is, when you get to the playoffs, can you raise your level of play and carry your team to wins in the playoffs as well as to potential series wins? And we saw that Jimmy Butler can do that. Like, for me, Jimmy Butler has crossed over and he's definitely a superstar. I mean, when you go into an NBA Finals and you go up against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and let's be very clear, those two guys guarded Jimmy Butler for most of that series. So he wasn't just going up against KCP or Danny Green the whole series. He had some elite defenders on him. And he still went up there and put up 26 points. What was it, like 8.3 rebounds, 9.8 assists, still gave you 2.2 steals on the defensive end, shooting like, 55% from the field? Like, that's superstar level play. Now, I understand that's a small sample size compared to what he's been doing, because typically for his, like I said, for this season, he's around 6 and 6, right? Like 6.7 assists, but six rebounds. But then when you look at his regular season, his playoff numbers, they were very close to his regular season numbers. They didn't differ much. Even if you look at his last 5 years prior to the season, he's around like 21 points, like 5 or 6 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. So he's still in that same range of being a guy who's going to give you rebounds, he's going to score, and he can facilitate, and he's going to give you about 2 steals every single night. So he's been consistent in that range for what we saw in the playoffs, to what we saw in the regular season, to what we saw over the last 5 years. So that's why I think he's a bona fide, not just a one-time all-star, right? He's a bona fide perennial all-star player. But what really crossed it over for me was that NBA Finals performance, man. Like, he did things we had never seen before in the history of the NBA. Think about this. The Miami Heat go down 2-0. Everybody's got them just kind of washed out after game 2. Bam's down, Dragic is down, and who really at that point picked the Miami Heat to win any games, and let alone 2 games. There was if you picked the Miami Heat to win 1, because I did still feel the Lakers would win in 5. But if you pick that, how many people actually picked them to win 2 games and force it to game 6? Not many. So Think about game 3. Jimmy Butler comes out and does what no player's ever done before. He had 40 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. Listen, 2 steals, 2 blocks. And this man did that, outscoring LeBron in points, rebounds, and assists for the very first time in NBA Finals. He was the only player, is the only player, to ever have a 40-point triple-double and do it in a win. He did that in game 3. He put the Miami Heat on his back. That wasn't it, though. He didn't just stop there and say, hey, one game, one good game, one great game, one historic game, and that's all I got for you. No. They go down 3-1. And instead of just bowing out when the Lakers have put their Black Mamba jerseys on, they got the champagne in the locker room on ice. They got the trophy that they brought out in the case. Everybody's ready to celebrate. Everybody's ready to crown the Lakers the champions. Jimmy Butler had other plans. Jimmy Butler went out there and did what no player in NBA history has ever done. He had a 35-point triple-double. 35 points, 13 rebounds. I think it was like 11 assists. But then he also gave you 5 steals. No player's ever had a 35-point triple-double and give you 5 steals before in a finals game. Jimmy Butler did. So when you think about what he did in game 3, and then we think about what he did in game 5, to me, that right there, listen, that's mind-blowing. That right there, those are LeBron James type numbers. Those are Michael Jordan type numbers, right? Those are the greatest of all time type numbers. Jimmy Butler did that. So for me, I put him as a bona fide superstar, and where I rank him, I think he's in that 10 to 15 range. I don't think there should be any question about him being not top 9. Like, there's 9 guys that I rank over him, which like I said, I'll get to that in probably the next video, who those 9 guys are. But there are 9 guys I rank over him. I put him in that right in that 10th slot, right? Because he's a two-way player. Like, once again, guys that compete on both ends of the court, you got to give credit. And look at the amount of minutes he played. He's an Iron Man. He was playing 45, 46, 47 minutes almost every game, giving it his all. You gotta love that. So a guy who's gonna play his all, he's gonna, remember, the best ability is availability. He was there, playing in every game, playing big minutes in every game, playing elite on both ends of the floor, every game. Guys that can do that, he's in that 10 to 15 range for me. And here's some of the other names of guys that are in that 10, 15 range with him. When you start thinking about guys like Jokic, right? When you think about guys like Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, these guys, right? I think he's in that range. Now, if you want to flip-flop guys, whatever, because like I said, I think there's tiers to NBA ranks. I don't think everybody's just even, I don't think all superstars are equal. I don't think all stars are equal. For instance, a superstar like Dame Lillard, let's say, for instance, he's a superstar. He's not a superstar like LeBron James. LeBron James is like a supernova, right? So there's levels to this. Jimmy Butler, to me, is on the bottom of that superstar level. He's like probably one of the last superstars that there are in the NBA. One of the last, right? But he is a superstar. And I understand that other guys have, carried different weight, different things like that. But you're not going to be able to, to be able to go to the levels that he went to, you got to have it inside you. Dragic can't go to that level. Bam can't go to that level. There's no Joel Embiid, we've never seen him go to that level. Ben Simmons, there's no teammate. Karl Anthony Towns, there's no teammate we've seen that Jimmy Butler's ever played with, right? As far as like this year, over the last 5 years, right? We've never seen him when he's been in his prime playing with another guy that could go to the level that he went to, as we saw in these NBA Finals. So I put him, like I say, to me, Jimmy Butler's in that 10 to 15 range. And he's a bona fide superstar. Let me know in the comment section, where do you rank Jimmy Butler? And make sure that you come around for the next video, because I'm gonna start breaking this thing down, and we're gonna see where everybody stacks up, because as we go into the 2021 season, it's a lot of changes in my player rankings. Like, if you saw my 2020 rankings and when I did at the beginning of last season, you'll see it's a lot of changes. Jimmy Butler wasn't even as high as he was. He wasn't, he was in that 15 to 20-ish range. He's had to move up off this playoff run. Guys like, where's Jamal Murray going to finish? Where's Devin Booker going to land? Make sure that you stick around for that next video, man. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit the logo right here. Subscribe to the video. Also, if you missed my video where I broke down the Milwaukee Bucks and some of the trades that they need to do, go ahead and click this right here, because we're going to be getting into some videos coming up where we're going to be breaking down the off-season moves and everything, so you do not want to miss what I got in store for you. Listen, the NBA off-season is here. For a ballaholic like myself, we're year-round. This thing does not stop. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe. Hit the logo right here if you haven't subscribed already. Click this box right here if you want to see the video about the Milwaukee Bucks and the 2 trades that I think they need to look into. Listen, until next time, make sure that you stay safe in the streets. And remember, we still demand justice for Breonna Taylor and Jacob Blake. Peace.